Hello, friends, and welcome to Binge O'Clock, the podcast where we watch something and then we talk about it. I'm Joy Selden, and I've seen almost everything.
I'm Danielle, and I've seen almost nothing.
I'm Nella, and wow, I apologize now for how much I'm going to end up talking about U.S. politics in the 1850s.
We can always blame it on Fringe, Nella. Fringe did this to you. And that's what, no, well, actually, to be fair, Fringe and I did this to you.
Look, I know someone's listening right now and going, Nella, how does 1850s U.S. politics come into Fringe? And hold on to your butts because it's stupid. It's so stupid.
It's really, really dumb.
Although, listeners, we really, we've been here before, and the writers just chose to do it again.
They chose violence. They were just like... They were just like, in the future, one day, this is really going to piss off this one girl named Nella. Put it in.
And for this reason, and this reason alone, we are putting it into this show.
Yeah.
Because there actually is no other reason for them to do this.
They came for me in particular.
They traveled to the past and they watched you. And then
they're my own personal observers.
They didn't even have to travel anywhere. They see it all happening at once in front of us.
All at once. Just a stream of time.
So actually, what they actually get is they get to see your reaction, like, next to the thing as it's happening.
And then they tweak it.
Yeah.
They tweak it just to have the right amount. They're like, okay, so we need like a 20-minute rant right here about Andrew Jackson. Perfect. We're just gonna adjust it. But yes, hello friends. We are back in the saddle again. Danielle is fresh off, well, not fresh off the plane, but technically still on the plane.
I don't know where I am. I don't know who I am. I don't know what time it is. If I stumble more over my words during this podcast episode than I usually do, it's because I'm not fully human yet.
The human full bar is only at like 67%.
67 is good. I think 67 feels maybe right, or maybe it's closer to like 53.
You see, your problem is you did international travel too close to daylight savings time.
Yeah, I'm just all kinds of messed up.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, daylight savings time got me too. I literally woke up and I was like, what time is it? Because my phone was saying one time and my clock was saying another, and I was still in bed, like, terrified to get out of it. Right. I didn't know what was happening. And then it took a whole second for me to be like, I just plumb forgot.
Well, and then because I am the human that I am, I left my apartment for the first time in like 2 days today. And all of a sudden, the world is warm, and no one was wearing masks, and I almost had, I was like, culture shock, I can't. And then I turned right around and went inside.
Oh, no. Wow, you're really running the gauntlet.
I came back, and everything was different.
It's the Simpsons meme of, like, Grandpa Simpson's walking into the bordello and seeing poor Bart at the front desk, and he puts down his hat and picks it back up and just walks back out.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a stream of insane circumstances, for real. But no, we are glad to be back, and we're glad to be talking about Fringe, season 4, episodes 17 through 19, which, I mean, these episodes are kind of rough, so I think we should just take them
one at a time.
Yeah.
I agree. One at a time, for sure. Also, disclosure, listeners, I saw these episodes fully 2.5 weeks ago. I don't know.
Asterisk, we all saw them 2.5 weeks ago.
No need to throw yourself under the bus on this one, Danielle. We've all been...
Danielle's vacation caught literally all three of us off guard. So sorry about that. You know what? We've been doing this for a year. We've got some stumbling blocks, but we're making it work.
Okay.
This is fine.
Episode 17, ironically, which I know I used that word incorrectly, who cares, called Everything in Its Right Place.
Yes. And this is, you just can't, can you? This is also the one where we actually say goodbye to Frosted Tips Lincoln.
Frosted Tips Lincoln.
Yeah.
I didn't prepare a eulogy, listeners.
I only had enough room in my heart for Charlie, unfortunately. Like, I'd buy him a beer, but I'm not going to eulogize.
No.
Captain Lincoln.
Certainly.
It's not gonna happen.
Certainly not. I do really enjoy how this episode opens, though. It opens with Jean wearing an FBI jacket because it's grazing day.
Yes.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yes. What a beautiful cow.
Such a beautiful cow who has SAD because she's been living in a basement lab for the better part of how many years? Who knows? And
I mean,
they're
at this
taking
point,
her out.
3 or 4.
And so they're taking her out to enjoy the sunshine. It's going to be a lovely day for the family. And so Lincoln decides to just not.
Yeah,
What?
because I think, it's Farnsworth that has, like, a bunch of files to bring over?
Astrid was
I
supposed
think-
to deliver the files.
Yeah, and Lincoln is just like, I am less than useless today. Literally nothing's going on. Let me take them. And, you know, he's able to help them out on a case with the shapeshifters, and really help them crack so many layers of it. And also the thing I really enjoy. So there are a couple of things I really like about this episode. One of them is how similar both Lincoln's lives are. And some of that is, like, of course, set up for what happens in the next episode. But, like, they as doppelgangers have such similarities right down to, like, who they took to the prom.
Right.
If they when and where they were stood up when they were, like, beat up as children. You know, I love that our Lincoln looks at their Lincoln and is just like, how on earth are we such different people?
Right.
Like, I don't have your... Oh, how did he put it? Like,
Confidence bordering on self-aggrandizing narcissism is how he
That's
put it.
it.
Thank you, my notes.
I knew you would. So we always trust Danielle to do her homework. She's always the good student among us. But yeah, it's a really interesting take on, like, who you are as a person versus how you were raised. And it's like sometimes who you are as a person just overshines all of that, you know, and like our Lincoln as a person was just much quieter, you know, and just not as outgoing. And I just thought it was really interesting that they had that. But I say it's a setup because we say goodbye to him in this episode. Our Lincoln decides to stay in the next one.
I mean, listen,
because
because
it can't survive without a Lincoln. I guess.
Well, no. Now, speaking of those conversations, though, and I'm just listeners. I'm gonna try to be civil because I don't feel good about speaking ill of a character who died.
Of major character death.
But wow, I really don't like Captain Lee.
You know what? That's fair.
I don't like it. I don't love that he looks at Lincoln and just, I don't know, that he sees Lincoln as this really weak person who is lesser than he, and that despite seeing Lincoln in that way, feels like he constantly needs to show off to prove that he's better. I'm like,
well, they're all, there's a lot of measuring happening.
yes.
But you know, I think it still goes back to their dynamic in that Fringe division. Like, they're also heroes in their universe. You know what I mean? And like, people know who they are, and like, they are a bunch of more attractive, I guess, jocks in a way. Like,
no, you're right. This is like the Captain
Broyles wearing the tightest shirt on the planet. And
Captain Hammer energy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the sexy universe, as we've said before. But there's, like, I don't think it's the same kind of thing that, like, when you have a character who is not self-aware, that's not the word I'm looking for, but a character who's just really puts themselves out there and is extremely confident to the point of, like, egotism and narcissism and almost classism to some extent, you know, because, like, he judges other people, even his other self, for, like, but why aren't you as cool as me, you know?
Right, well, that's
like,
the thing.
this
Like,
weird...
it's not just confidence. It's like he goes out of his way to make Lincoln feel bad about himself. You know, like, he sees that Lincoln is in this universe, and he takes this opportunity to say to Lincoln that, well, you know, I couldn't just go over to the other universe for weeks at a time because this universe wouldn't survive without me. And I'm like,
yeah, because of course he says that. But can we also discuss how hilarious it is that they decide to have this heart-to-heart on the open comms during their op? And, like, it takes faux Livia to be like, hey, ladies, could you button it up a little?
Yeah.
Some of us are trying to work here.
Some of us are trying to sneak up on a bad guy, thanks.
Some of our jocks are trying to get our reps in, and you guys are just yapping.
You're harshing my vibe. Yeah, no, I love that it was
not working hard enough.
Exactly. I just love that it was faux Olivia who was just like, could we not maybe on like a wide open channel for like literally everybody to hear, please and thank you? Great. Okay, bye. But there was something else in this episode that happened, which Nella missed. And because I love Nella's rants so much,
I can't believe you did this to me.
Nella, did you hear what they said?
See, all right. So,
no, okay, let me rewind.
Wait. I need to set this up because we're in the alternate universe, and already, I thought they'd already blown their load on like the one wacky difference between this world and ours, which is the travel poster for visiting the USSR. So, like, I was thinking,
which is pretty big.
That's pretty big.
It's a pretty big throw
that has
out there,
a lot of
man.
that has deep deep questions, like especially looking at the world, the state of it is now, with questions about Russia. I have a lot of questions.
Does Chernobyl still happen?
Well, of course, Chernobyl still happens. Like,
well, right, but like their world is falling apart anyway, and it's just like, what does Chernobyl do to the fact that their world is falling? You know what I mean? Like, it's bizarre.
Well,
anyway, I'm sorry, I'm sidetracking.
What year did the world start falling apart again in this world? When did Peter die?
1998?
Oh.
Shoot.
Because Chernobyl happened in 86. So it happened well before.
20 years before whenever this is taking place.
Yeah. So, like, Chernobyl, now the question is, like, maybe their science was better in their USSR and they weren't cutting corners and, like, having really bad corruption and stuff. I don't know. Like, questions could be had about that.
I mean, this universe is definitely more technically advanced. But I don't know for how long they've been more advanced.
Yeah.
Like when did that happen?
Maybe they were smart enough not to use, like, water coolant systems like Eisenhower pushed because it works on submarines. And then you're like, but sir, submarines are surrounded by cold salt water at all times. So maybe bringing that technology onto land where you have to always be providing cold water to cool your reactor might actually, in theory, be a problem if something were to, say, happen to the pumps that supply the cold. Sir, please, Mr. Eisenhower, please, sir. Anyway, I was expecting that to be like the big one.
But at least that's a weird thing that in a modern context that, like, okay, maybe in the last 20 to 30 to 40 years, some other things happened that meant USSR is still a thing.
Yeah, like, maybe the Cold War ended, but, like, the Soviet Union didn't collapse or something. Like, we all figured it out. I don't know. But then Joy goes back to rewind this one part because I wasn't paying attention, because sometimes I do that, wherein two people we're betting on a boxing match, and pretty much
like a friendly bet, but with money.
Yeah, and pretty much mentions that he lost a Fillmore or some Fillmores. Like, I forget the exact, but as we would say, yeah, and I lost some Benjamins. He says, and I lost some Fillmores. And the records screech in my head. And now we've had a slight debate on, like, but is he really on 100? I'm like, no. You wouldn't say a Fillmore if it wasn't on a $100 bill. Like, but I digress. In what world would we put Millard Fillmore on anything? That last of the mother wigs signed the Fugitive Slave Act. He was the one who wanted to break Japan open for trade and sent Commodore Matthew Perry to Japan. Like,
oh.
Yeah. She reminded me of that, and I went, oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah, sit with that for a second. Want to know it's never been good for anyone? White people going to an Asian country and being like, what do you mean we can't have your stuff? Open your doors. We want in. That's never worked for anyone in anyone's favor. It's a bad move. It's a bad scene. And he's the guy responsible for it in Japan.
So real side note for a quick second, we're going to get back to this rant in a sec, but one of my favorite things that a historian friend of mine told me was when Japan did finally open its doors to some trade outside of the islands, England's brilliant idea was to bring tea. And the story is just like, and Japan like laughed in their faces and slammed the door shut.
Good.
Anyway, please continue.
All right. Okay. Do you want to know how he became president? Do you want to know how he became president? He must have been like really impressive, right?
I know like nothing about Fillmore.
Okay.
It's really sad.
Okay. So here's what happened. The guy who was president had some milk and cherries at a 4th of July party and then died
heard this story.
Yeah, of gastroenteritis. And so the VP became president. So there's that. He was, like I said, he was one of the last
literally
of the
all our nightmares.
Yeah. So he wasn't elected.
No, he wasn't. I mean, he was elected for VP, but the elections work differently then. So, regardless, so he was one of the last of the Whigs. When his party collapsed, after his presidency, him and all his buddies went to go form the Know Nothing Party. And if you know anything about the Know Nothing Party, they're the worst. Those nativist racists, so obsessed with we got to maintain the union, that they're just like, I really feel like slavery is not a moral question, but a question of states' rights. And I'm just like, eat dirt.
Yeah.
The only reason, and I really was racking my brain on this, the only reason I could think why anyone would be like, yay, Fillmore, is if in this universe, the majority religion of this United States is Mormonism. Because the Mormons loved him, because he made Brigham Young the first governor of the Utah Territory. So he actually recognized Mormons in his own way. So Brigham Young loved him.
Huh. All right.
I am baffled. Why Fillmore?
Why? Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be fair, also why Andrew Jackson? This, I just keep thinking about how do you not know who Andrew Jackson is?
Mm-hmm.
And how do look, as Nella pointed out when we were preparing for this podcast, she was like, look, the people on our money are no saints either.
Yeah. They're also
we have
worst.
issues with our money and we're trying to fix them. But it's I kept thinking of different ways that things what if the Civil War happened earlier? Or what if they actually quote unquote solved the problem of slavery when we became a nation? Or all these other lists of things. And it's just but still none of it really makes sense.
Right.
Absolutely none of it. You don't end up in an alternate universe that is so close to us. Especially when you set up between the two Lincolns that you can be pretty much right on top of each other, unable to really determine where your differences even were, and they end up such different people. And meanwhile, you're mucking about with the history of this world and still saying, but it's practically like ours. It's just they're a little more technologically advanced, and they've suffered more from the collision of the universes, and that's but that's really where the differences lie, and it just doesn't work.
No.
These changes are, again, I know I'm being a dead horse on this, but the changes are too extreme. They represent ideas that are too big. You're putting someone on your money who signed the Fugitive Slave Act.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe and so what you're telling me is that the reworked Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, because there was already a Fugitive Slave Act, but it had been weakened by abolitionist states being okay, yeah, federal law says we have to give slaves back, but what if, hear me out, we just didn't? What if we believed in this thing called habeas corpus or something? And then the Fugitive Slave Act, I wonder if it's pretty much.
I wonder if it's something as
threw the northern
as
states' rights out. Pretty much, they were so slavery should be an issue of states' rights, except for northern states who want the right to say we're not giving you your slaves back. Actually,
I mean, I wonder if it's something as simple as maybe he just got rid of the whole thing.
He supported the Compromise of 1850. So there has to be a fundamentally vast change to the very politics of Fillmore.
Yes. I mean, I think we all agree
Massively
if you're gonna put Fillmore on $100 bill, there has to be some kind of massive change.
Right.
Like the Fillmore we know is not $100 bill worthy. So
Not $100
this is my
bill
point.
material.
Like something had to have been
Different.
shifted or different or changed. And like, how do you not know who Jackson is? How do you like, you know, like there's fundamental stuff in their politics that doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Also, let's just go ahead and point out this one, like the West Wing season 12 thing. Maybe they also don't have 2-term presidents. Maybe they're allowed to stay in office much longer. Like, maybe that's a thing. I don't know.
So then they don't have
I don't
FDR.
even know if they have Lincoln on their money.
So then they
Like,
don't have
know that.
FDR because they didn't have 4 terms, and then they panicked about that, like, because that's when term limits came in.
But I'm just saying, like, usually in the course of our history,
swear-
it has been like 2 terms.
Hand to God, if it turns out that Cuba is a part of America, I will flip every table. I will flip every table, because that was
Nella,
also
I
a
can
massive
promise
question in
you-
the 1850s.
Now,
Here's
guess what?
something I can promise you. We are so close to the end of season 4. You won't have to get that mad.
Okay.
Because guess what? None of these answers are ever given to us, so it's fine. It's literally all speculative fiction.
Granted, like, listen, have I paused the TV every time there was a map of the United States on the screen? No. But now I will.
I'm serious.
Like,
I'm serious. If Cuba is a territory of America, I will scream, because, like, that's another big thing about the 1850s in America. Every slave-owning Southerner was like, but what if Cuba was ours, because they also like slavery, and they kept trying to. They were just like, Cuba, my love, come free your bonds from the Spanish masters and come join America, where we also have slaves. Like, we were crazy about Cuba, absolutely nuts for it. We wanted her so bad. We were so thirsty for Cuba.
it's okay, Nella. You're allowed to breathe. Keep breathing. So it is different, but it looks like it seems to be different in the northeast, mostly.
Wait, are you looking at a map of the United States as shown in Fringe?
Yes.
Fringe's
Wait, I
red
need to-
universe? Do we know that it's the red
Alternate universe Fringe wiki literally has the map. And well, because remember, Walter has the map up on that wall.
Yes, he
and
does.
also, yeah, and I believe they also have like an overlay of like the Fringe events and how they affect the country. Oh God, I'm so bad at geography, friends. I apologize.
Oh, please.
It looks like
Oh, the Carolinas are not. There's not North and South Carolina. West Virginia didn't split from Virginia, so okay, so that's a big Civil War thing, actually. Holy swear jar!
dang!
Holy swear jar!
What if the Civil War like either never happened or happened differently?
I'm just watching the gears turn in Nella's
You know what's
head.
funny is I thought my call dropped because Nella just completely had
blue
shock
screen.
face. And like I was like, she's continuing to blue screen, friends. It's kind of hilarious.
No,
Please
you don't
Nella
understand.
explain
No,
something
you
about
don't
this map.
understand. Michigan doesn't have the Upper Peninsula. It's missing. They gave the Upper Peninsula to Canada. I'm freaking out.
Yeah,
I don't even know
No,
what
that's what I saw. I was staring at it like, what is missing up there? Because the Northeast. I mean, the north. Well, like the North. You know, the Northern Hemisphere, but with like the center and
Oklahoma and
off into the
Kansas
abyss.
are a single state called Midland. Texas is split between North and South. Half of California has fallen into the sea.
Not surprising.
Which, I mean, yeah, we're all waiting for that. The Dakotas are just one. It's just one Dakota. There's no North, South Dakota.
Actually, I wonder if California, if that was that big earthquake in like 1908 or whatever it was, and like it just crumbled.
Nevada is called Independent Nevada. Why? I don't know, but they did it.
I'm so sorry, friends. This might be the rest of the episode, but like,
I'm horrified. I'm like, I have questions about Texas. It's like, did the myth of the Alamo not go the way it's gone in our history, and like Spain held on to South Texas for longer, and that's why it's split into two Texases? Like, is that what happened? I have a lot of questions about Kansas, because Kansas was bleeding Kansas, and that line between Oklahoma and Kansas was a big deal. So like, I got questions there.
I'm still thinking about the mitten.
I cannot believe they got rid of the Upper Peninsula. It's like, won't someone do the Upers?
There is a map that's like, whoa, like definitely has some varied differences. And it's interesting because you would think there would be more cultural differences if you changed this much. But again, they didn't think about it that hard. They were just like, let's adjust a couple of things. I'm sure in the writer's room, these kinds of changes feel like in the writer's room, somebody was like, well, what if these things happened? And then they just didn't explore it. Right? Like, what if the Carolinas didn't split because whatever? And, like, what if instead of Jackson, we had Martin Luther King because
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's frustrating that they've put enough thought into it that they fully redid the map and painted it giant on a wall, you know?
Yeah.
And it wasn't just one change. It's clearly, like, many, many changes. So it's frustrating that they thought about it enough to do that, but not enough to... And
actually explain any of it?
Stopped right there.
I mean, I do think... I almost wish, like, we could have just had one thing. So, like, one of the reasons, just a quick tangent about, like, Starship Troopers. One of the reasons I really love Starship Troopers is, like, even though it's at its heart about war against, like, a bug race from space, they actually have a literal historian, like a history class, where they talk very briefly about some of the things in their history and like what's led them to there. Like, why is there like a very obviously American community in Buenos Aires, for example? Like, you know, it's these different things where it's like, why?
Right.
How did we get there? You know, and they give it a little bit and they give it to you enough that like it doesn't bother you for the rest of the movie, or at least it doesn't bother me. But like all you would have had to do is have Astrid like staring at a map and trying to understand the history for like one episode. We are already in fringe science. What if, you know, you just played a bunch of, like, you had a murder wall with a bunch of strings and somebody was like, okay, so what happened? Okay, so that happened instead of that. Okay, cool. Yes. So that meant this happened instead of that, right?
Although I think it would be Peter who would do that. In my head, that would be Peter. Peter looking at that wall thinking, like,
you mean Peter who has already had a murder wall? Yes, of course it would be Peter. He has a canonical murder wall. Yes. Canonical murder wall is now the title of this episode.
And, you know, he probably picked up and read a history textbook once, you know?
I mean, he does tend to remember a lot. You know, like he went to MIT and stuff. But like, I find it fascinating. Oh no, now Nella, we've lost Nella for the rest of the episode.
I was getting angry about the 1850s. We need to move on. I can't live here anymore.
No, we can definitely move on. So that actually brings us very nicely into the next episode where, you know, it opens with Captain Lee's funeral. And, you know, it is like very somber, and like our Lincoln is still over there sort of trying to help, you know, balance some stuff out, because he's exactly where Olivia was when we met him in this time stream. His partner had just gotten killed by a shapeshifter, you know, and he's like, I don't know exactly what you're going through, but I will help you try to figure this out. Like,
yeah. And there's also the whole thing where he doesn't feel like he really belongs in the Blue universe anymore. And he doesn't really feel like he belongs on that team. And now this team has an open position.
Yeah.
And so he has to stay until the shapeshifter case is solved.
And also, it is in that episode where we also get the, we can affect the doppelgangers in each universe at the same time, right? Yeah.
Yep. So this
horrifying.
is where we discover, or Walter figures out, that part of David Robert Jones's evil plan is to figure out a way to make the people in the Blue universe vibrate at the same frequency as their doppelgangers in the Red universe, so that when you kill someone in the Red universe, their doppelganger also dies in exactly the same way.
Yep.
The woman in the supermarket was terrible.
I know.
Terrible.
Well, the first one is pretty awful also, because it's just a dude suspended in air.
Yes.
And like, he doesn't understand what's happening to him. He's just like suspended there. He doesn't even, you know, like, who knows what's going on. And then like collapses as if he's fallen, like, I forget what it was, 200 feet or whatever, like, you know, several thousand feet.
And really what was happening, listeners, is that his doppelganger was a pilot and his plane crashed. So what was happening to his body is that it was being crushed.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was weightless for the time that he was in literal free fall in this plane and then collided with the ground. And this was like in a high-rise building on like whatever, the 30th floor or some nonsense. And it was like he was just in a meeting in a building. Like
they painted him as a not nice boss, I think, to make us
to soften the blow,
exactly.
Which is why the woman is obviously the more like, oh, but she was just shopping.
Yeah. Right, I know. She's shopping her doppelganger, and they kill her doppelganger by getting her to drive her car off a bridge, or the taxis gets driven off a bridge or something. And so this woman drowns in the middle of a supermarket.
Yeah,
she starts something up that water. That murky brown water.
I know.
Pretty grotesque.
I forget what it wasn't like the car hit first or something because she goes careening across the floor.
Yeah, I think what they do is that sounds right. I'm not sure.
She goes like careening across the floor and then all of a sudden she's like coughing up water.
I think the reason she careens across the floor first is because the car goes off a bridge. So that's the moment where the car is flying through the air and then she hits the water. And when she hits the water and then her lungs fill up, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Terrible.
I know. Oh, it was so hard to watch.
Mm-hmm.
It was really difficult to watch. And, you know, it also brings us to like A.U. Broyles. Man, he's...
Yeah, it turns out that David Robert Jones is not blackmailing him with money. What he's doing is he's treating Christopher.
Yeah, he's basically improving his son's life and holding that over Broyles because it's the other thing is like, or you can just watch your son die. This is the choice I'm giving you. And I know Nella was like, oh, that's what it is. You know, because we kept trying and we were sitting there like, how on earth did you get Broyles, man?
Yeah.
We were like, he's a shapeshifter. He can't be a shapeshifter. Damn it. Like maybe.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's exactly how you get Broyles.
Son. You get him through his son.
And that scene where he's like putting his son to bed and his son is telling him about this wonderful day that he had and that he got chosen for some sort of sports team and that the girl in his class who he has a crush on likes him back. And Broyles just looks so happy. You never get to see Broyles happy in this show. Almost never.
I know. Because Broyles cracks a smile is like on your bingo card, man. It just, that's that wild, it's like the wild space. It's like it's never, you might as well just mark it off because it hardly ever happens.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where we get like a Sherlock Holmes shout out, which they don't have in the alternate universe.
They also don't have Batman, by the way.
Yeah, instead it's Mantis. It's the red arrow instead of the green arrow. It's stupid. It's real dumb.
I mean, not having a Batman for some reason to me is just weirder than having a different arrow, a differently colored arrow.
A differently colored arrow.
You know what I mean? Like it makes more sense to be like, oh no, wait, who did they have instead? Did you write it down?
Instead of Batman?
The Mantis.
Mantis, yeah.
The Mantis. Yeah.
They still call him the Caped Crusader, though.
Why?
Why
does he wear a cape?
I don't know.
Why would a mantis wear a cape, though? In what universe?
In this universe, Joy.
In this universe. This universe,
Add this to the list of things that the writers put not enough thought into.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
He has an arch nemesis who's a woman who keeps trying to eat him. Obviously.
100%.
I kind of love that.
She's called the honey badger.
Woman.
Yeah.
Did you know that in this universe they have pet badgers? Walter finds a bag of something in a store that's for pet badgers, domesticated badgers.
That's not an animal.
I missed that completely.
Domesticate.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
This universe has domesticated badgers.
That's a terrible idea.
But it definitely adds to the idea that there is perhaps a comic book character that is Badger related.
I mean,
like Catwoman, but Badger Woman.
Sure.
Badger Woman, the Honey Badger. I will die on this hill. The Honey Badger. The Honey Badger and the Mantis have it out.
Anyway, so Walter's the one who posits that, we know that there's a mole, but we've gone through the likely suspects, so we should look at the unlikely ones. And they just nail it. It's Broyles. It's got to be Broyles. Like, no one would suspect the butterfly. And by butterfly, I mean Broyles.
And they masterfully trick Nina, phone Nina, into telling them, we need a funny phone name for Nina.
Yeah. Not Nina. Not Nina.
Nino.
Nino. I like that. I'm going to go with Nino.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Nino as well.
But yeah, they tricked Nino into telling them, like, that it was essentially Broyles. I think it's Peter, isn't it? No, it's Lincoln?
And Olivia.
Oh, it's for Olivia. That's right. Because she kind of steps up her game after Captain Lincoln dies.
Yes.
And it's just heart-wrenching because I'm sure it's that moment of, like, you don't want it to be Broyles. And, oh, God, it's Broyles.
It's Broyles. Now, I do appreciate, though, that the show wrote in the fact that that Broyles turns himself in. And so they don't actually catch him red-handed because David Robert Jones gives him a device that he wants Broyles to plant on the machine.
The bridge. It's the machine bridge between the two worlds.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I think fandom calls it the vacuum, which I was like, okay.
The vacuum.
Fine. I know. I saw that recently and I was like, all right.
Anyway,
I mean, it's more of a decontamination corridor, but get off, I guess. I mean,
I'm sorry, listeners. We also like this show. Do you swear jar that?
No, you don't.
No, I don't.
It was saucy, but it wasn't a curse.
This is true.
Okay. So anyway, Broyles turns himself in rather than planting this device on the bridge because DRJ won't tell him what the device does. And so he figures, you know what? There's a possibility that this device fully collapses both universes. And so, no. Yeah. Not today, Satan.
Yeah.
Well, because then also the bridge is definitely healing both worlds. Like it is logical to keep it open at all costs.
Yeah. They're stable enough that they're able to start unambering people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was great.
Which is not, true. Nothing to sneeze at.
No. That's how they discovered the shapeshifter in the last episode.
Yeah.
Or the shapeshifter's lair, rather, and those, 18 gooey bodies. That was we
got to go back to that other episode for a second because that body horror of that church basement was delightful. Yeah. Well really done, everyone. It was so gross. The levels of decomposition, chef's kiss. Well done.
They were so gooey.
Yes.
And there were so many of them. I also kind of love that horror moment where Olivia picks up the locket from one of the bodies and its head just falls off.
Yep.
As the locket gets picked up. It's great.
It was very beautifully campy and yet somehow also still horrifying enough that the campy didn't interrupt it.
Yeah.
Horrifying and my favorite, narratively relevant because that's how Lincoln sees the 3 little holes in the soft palate.
Yep.
Right, because the head rolls back far enough that he can see inside the mouth. I forgot about that.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. Great stuff.
So, we had these 2 episodes that were they were kind of par for the course, continuing the, ongoing nonsense mystery of what is David Robert Jones even trying to accomplish.
What is he doing?
What?
How is he duped so many people into joining this master plan of his? I know that we already talked about the monster lovers, but with the shapeshifters, he told them the same thing. He told this shapeshifter that he was going to make him unique, one of a kind, the first in a new brand or species, whatever, of human being. And I was like, I don't know. It's just so strange.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we're not going to find out in episode 19 because guess what? It has nothing to do with anything.
Yep.
All right.
No, it does not.
this whole time, every time Joy has been like, season 5 is so weird. It's so different. It's so out there. And I'm just like, how could it possibly, like, this is Fringe. What could be weirder than what we're already going through? Like, you keep saying this thing and I don't understand what you're suggesting about season 5. And now I get it, because I have been told that this episode is a preview of what season 5 is going to be. And gentle listener, I hate it.
And that is totally fair. And I feel like Danielle's going to be like, called it.
I know. And we
so what happens in this episode is it's 20
in this universe.
Years in the future? 25 years?
It's 2036.
Yeah, so Fringe died 20 years ago.
Right. Okay.
That opening scroll, like that opening, like setting the scene text is just. Hang on. Let me see if I've got it. Okay. Here is the opening title. They came from the future. At first, they only watched, arriving at key moments in human history. We called them observers. But in 2015, they stopped watching and seized control. Citizen uprisings proved bloody and futile. Those who survived became known as natives. In an attempt to show their allegiance, some native factions became loyalists and were marked by the observers. The original Fringe team fought the invasion, but were quickly defeated. Fringe Division was allowed to continue at a reduced capacity, but only to police the natives. The resistance was quickly overcome. Or so they thought. It's so dumb. I'm like, first off, like, natives and loyalists, very loaded terms.
Very loaded terms. They really should have thought about that. Just again, sound like a broken record, but just like for a scooch of time. Just like
the fact that the observers are going to be the kind of stupid bad guys that they're like, yes, we defeated you, but we're going to keep you on in some capacity as a warning to humiliate you, like, instead of just wiping the earth of every trace of you, which would be the smarter thing to do, is baffling.
Right.
For people who live outside of time and can see time at all times, like, you think they would have, but I guess not. I guess, they've got a blind spot on this one or something.
So my interpretation of that point was always that if you killed off everyone in the droves that you wanted to, you would have a paradox situation, because technically this civilization gives birth to your civilization. So I always imagined it that, like, they can't kill off everybody they want to, because that could irreparably screw up their own timeline. And because they do see time as, all at once or whatever, they were just like, you know what, it's better to just enslave everybody because we have the upper hand anyway.
Right.
I'm not saying it makes sense.
No, yeah.
I'm just saying.
Well, I think that
was the thought process I think they went to.
I think that does make sense, and I think that they, and I think that they see themselves as so powerful that they can't even comprehend the idea that these quote natives would be able to overpower
them at all.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the hubris problem.
I hated everything about the scene of their club, their nightclub. Hated it. Hated everything about that.
We didn't even get back. We didn't even get through, like, to the title card. Like, we didn't even get to, like, the theme music playing. And she was like, oh God, I hate it. Oh, where are we? I don't like anything about this. And I had to pause it and be like, welcome to your preview of season 5.
And this is where we also gently remind you that you can get off this train whenever you would like to.
We're not train whenever you want.
Here if you don't want to stay.
No, I'm going to see this through to the end.
Because it goes right from the title card to
spite.
The bar scene. Like, it goes, the first scene is the bar.
Yeah. Which we've got to threaten violence towards a woman of color, because that's how you know they're the baddies.
It is pretty bad. They're taking advantage of all of the women who work in the club. And then, of course, the bar owner comes on over and saves them.
And then I guess, or who we find out later who she is, one of the Fringe Division comes in to pretty much save the bar owner's life because he's a native and, that's her jurisdiction. But they're also obviously working together to try and uncover something that we discover later what it is. But of course, he gets shot in the middle of the alley. And so she runs off with the thing he found, which is Walter and Amber.
Walter and Amber. So the original Fringe team was Ambered and Etta, that's her name.
Yes.
And Etta's trying to find them, helped by
Agent Simon
an actor
Foster,
whose name I should know because he's in just all sorts of things.
I know. I literally forgot it as soon as I looked it up. I feel like I looked it up 3 or 4 times. I'm so sorry, dude. You have a super memorable face, and I, for some reason, can never remember your name.
Mm-hmm. You're great in many of the things that you're
Henry Ian Cusick?
Yes. See that? I'm so bad at it, I can't even...
Oh, he was born in Peru. Huh.
Cool.
Anyway,
now, what they introduce into this, in addition to the little title scroll, they also just like give the observers powers that they have never had before. Like in this universe, the observers can read minds, except for Etta's, weirdly, and they can just kind of blow up people's heads, right?
Essentially. I think it's the I think it's like not Magneto. I think it's the Professor X problem, where it's like if he focuses on you too hard, your brain could just cook in its skull, you know, and you would just die. I do.
No, that makes sense. So they're super telepathic.
I don't actually know if this is a spoiler or not because I can't remember what has been revealed and what hasn't been revealed. But I'm just going to put it out there that the 12 observers who we've seen are not necessarily the standard observer model. And I like they're like the advanced team of like scientists and scouts is not necessarily representative of the culture of observers as a whole.
Right.
Now, I don't remember how much of that is revealed when. And this could entirely just be my own theory because we only ever see really September and like we kind of get to know August and we get to know like 3 or 4 other ones. And like we don't really know what they can do. Not really. We just see them watching us a lot and dodging bullets and walking really fast. Yeah. Like it doesn't always, you know what I mean? Like you don't necessarily know because they're not supposed to be interacting with people. I do think the connotation that we take away from that is that it's only specific observers who can do that because otherwise, why wouldn't the other observers be doing that constantly? Right.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
It looks to me like it's a specific gift that certain observers have.
So only Windmark.
Only Windmark, or only a few like observers like Windmark have it, which is horrifying. And look, anybody having that at all is horrifying. They do de-amberfy Walter, who is he's been through a lot of trauma and
he's not exactly lucid.
Nope. Absolutely not. He may or may not still be missing pieces of his brain. Definitely that brain damaged sort of stuff kind of comes back for a bit. We get to see Nina, though.
I know.
Old Nina.
She finally gave up on the hair dye. Good look on her,
finally.
Though.
She still has bangs. On her.
Yeah,
I like that she kept her bangs.
She's going to die in those bangs, and I approve.
You will take these bangs from her cold, white-haired hands.
This episode is like peak John Noble. Because the episode starts with the Walter who's not super lucid, you know, he can't really focus on the tasks at hand. He doesn't really know who he is. He doesn't even recognize Nina.
I know.
He mostly just wants to eat red vines.
Yep. And he like can't remember anyone's name. Like.
Exactly. So, but that scene where he's kind of playing on the structures outside of Massive Dynamic is so cute. But as soon as they inject him with the liquefied bits of his brain that they get from Nina, he instantly transforms into, well, not the Walter that we know and love, actually.
Yeah.
Kind of more of a Walter-nitty Walter.
Yeah. He's somewhere in the middle. I think, I think they straddle the line really well between the Walter we know and love and a Walter who would have, like, lived through observers showing up and trying to take over his planet, and then him becoming part of the resistance, and like kind of needing to get his stuff in order, get his house in order.
He has all those hard edges that Walternate has, and that have allowed him to break the world.
I have broken several worlds, and I will break yours. Dang it!
I mean, look. In order to escape massive dynamic, he creates an antimatter device that swallows up the entire building.
I kind of love like the chaos that is Walter. In this
when Walter runs out of fucks because of what
Walter.
Because of also what Bell did to Olivia, of which we don't know yet, but we do know that William Bell, who was also in the Amber, did something bad.
And is also now missing a hand.
Yeah, because Walter takes the ambered hand, because they can only really pull one person out of the amber before Broyles and the observers show up to capture them all. So they pull Peter out. They pull Astrid out. And they leave William Bell behind, but they take his hand.
Walter doesn't even tell anyone that is William Bell, because Etta and Simon don't recognize him.
Yep.
And Walter just doesn't tell them who that is, and then steals.
Oh, they also get Astrid out, though, right?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
they get Astrid.
They get Astrid, and Astrid is just like, and Walter's like, don't ask. Shh, don't say anything. Shh.
But yeah.
No, I love this Walter. This is arguably my favorite Walter. I don't know. I haven't quite decided. This is also why I weirdly love season 5, because it's like it brings out better qualities in all the characters we've seen before, but the plot lines are just so wackadoo that it's like, okay, cool. Wackadoo. I guess we're just here now.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, you stick to this show because of the character work and because of the interactions between the characters. It's so fun. It plays like an RPG. It's amazing. I like poor Broyles in this universe they've kept him in charge of Fringe Division, but now his only job is to, and again, with the loaded terms, his only job is to manage, quote, native on native crime.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not great. Weird. I'm sorry, Nella. I feel like I interrupted you.
No, it's fine. But yeah, no, then at the end of the episode, we get the reveal of who Etta actually is. And of course, I suspected it. She's blonde. She works at Fringe Division. She's the right age. Her name is actually Henrietta. She is the daughter of Peter and Olivia. And Peter finally recognizes, because the last time he saw her, she was just a child. Real heartbreaker, that one.
It's that meme of like, you can see the exact moment when his heart breaks.
Yeah.
They definitely play with that a bit. I don't know. Look, I didn't do the research I should have done on this episode. I don't know why we have this episode here where it is. I don't know why they didn't just leave it for the season 5 premiere.
I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Because, like, it's obviously the season 5 premiere. I don't know why it's here. No idea. Because we're going to go right back to season 4 after this. The last 3 episodes are all season 4. So I can't even. I don't know.
Did they know that they were getting a season 5?
Unclear. I do know. So the only thing I do know about Fringe is that the ratings steadily declined from seasons 1 and season 2, and then it was sort of a steady drop off. I know season 5 was, I think, the least watched season, but it's like the numbers were never improving. You know what I mean? Like the numbers kept going down. So it's entirely possible that the creators of the show were like, you know what, let's just throw this in there and see what happens. But, like, by the end of season 4, you would have known you were getting a season 5.
I would assume. I don't know.
So, in theory, I mean, maybe they, like, filmed it beforehand. And so they just wanted to make sure to have it. I don't know. But those were the episodes, friends, because I think we're up to one more thing, because we're almost out of time. Yes. Do you guys have yours? Because I think I know mine.
I love that Astrid brings Agent Farnsworth coffee.
Yes, I know.
I also have one more thing. Are you really telling me that in the alternate universe, planes don't have black boxes? Are you kidding me?
We don't do that here. Why?
Why?
Well,
what? It's baffling to me. Truly baffling. Anyway.
And just so narratively irrelevant. Why?
I don't know. No Australian ever thought of it? Like, what? Now watch, Australia is not actually a place in this universe, and that's why we don't have black boxes. I mean,
no one lives on Australia. It's left to the animals, and they're perfectly happy there. My one more thing is Walter tinkering with Nina's arm, because her arm is obviously not working.
Yeah.
And he gives it a little, like, he fixes it just a little bit. And that's even while he's still not quite all there. And he still doesn't remember Nina's name, but he's like, no, that's fine.
But he remembers how to fix that arm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, it's like riding a bike, or it's like muscle memory,
Yeah.
He doesn't remember who Nina is, but he can fix her arm.
Exactly. My precious.
Okay. My one more thing is a scene that we lightly touched on, but not quite, which is when Walter is staying at Folivia's house in the second of the episodes that we watched, episode 18. When Walter is staying at Folivia's house and he comes out of his room in the middle of the night. First of all, he's wearing her bathrobe.
Mm-hmm. He sure is.
Which is a great little detail. But he finds Folivia drunk and surrounded by
sitting
Captain
on the
Lee's
floor
belongings.
in her living room.
Sitting on the floor in her living room. I thought this would give me some courage, but all it's done is just make me feel a little sick. We've all been there. And so, since she's feeling sick and she's sad, what Walter decides to do is cook for her.
Precious.
Because
Precious,
of course
which is beautiful. Which is beautiful. He also was going to bring her a casserole, but they wouldn't let him bring her a casserole. Like, Walter understands that when you are upset, food helps. And I love that about him. And so he makes her some eggs. And that is when that whole conversation about Sherlock Holmes happens. And that's when she finally is able to put the pieces together about broils.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I liked everything surrounding it as well.
No, it was so good. It was wrapped in a perfect omelet.
Yeah. Omelet.
Okay, I think we did it. So we'll be finishing up season 4 next week. And quick thank you to everybody for listening and downloading to the show more than 2,000 times. That was really awesome.
We'll have to do a little clink clink after this for that. How fun.
Yes.
Little bit of
sure.
Watra. Okay, listeners. Well, we would love to hear from you. Please check us out at Binge O'Clock Pod on Twitter and Facebook, where you can answer the question, who do you think deserves to be on the $100 bill? You can also email us at bingeoclockpod@gmail.com. And don't forget, we have a Patreon. Find us at patreon.com/BachPod.
That's right. And tell your friends, tell your family, tell your loved ones, tell the live lobsters in your life about Binge O'Clock, and we will see you next time.
You really put me on the spot with this question. I've only had like 30 seconds to think about it, and the only name that came to my head, like the first name, was Ida B. Wells.
Ooh, that's a good one though.
I was just like,
oh no,
put her on the
good.
100. Put her on there.
Good.
And then right after that, it was like Frederick Douglass. And then right after that, it was like John Brown. And I'm like, that would piss off a lot of people. You should put John Brown on the 100. Crazy old John Brown.
That would be excellent.
I love that you want the one that's going to piss off more people.
Yes.